Hi guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be drawing a licker from the Resident Evil series. We will be taking a bit of a dive into these creatures, where they come from, what they are, their biology, all while trying to draw one to the best of our ability. This channel exists in part to try and convince people to draw the things that inspire them, so I encourage you to pick up a pencil and draw something yourself. It could be a licker, a tyrant, or whatever you feel like taking a stab at. I'm always on the hunt for games to play and movies to watch, so leave a comment recommending any characters, creatures, what have you, from games, books, or films you might like to see drawn. Let's get into it. Resident Evil is an icon, maybe the icon, in the horror space, particularly when it comes to games. And with that coveted distinction, Resident Evil boasts many iconic creature designs: Nemesis, X, Lady D. We might all just have a thing for leather and hats, who knows. Those tyrants, big, beautiful, and horrifying, are exquisite, but for me, lickers present as the most visceral feral creations within the RE universe. There's something about them, the teeth and the sinewy muscle, and, of course, the giant exposed brain. So, what makes a licker? Where does it come from? Well, there are parts of this process still not understood in full, but I'm going to talk about this the way I understand it. I'm sure others will have their own version of events, and I encourage that. Sharing theories is ultimately the fun part about looking into lore. There's certainly more names and nuance than I will cover in this video. I'm not a lore expert, nor a Resident Evil expert, but I do enjoy the story, its characters, the gameplay, and what this channel is really about, the creature design. To talk about lickers, we need to start at the beginning of Resident Evil's tale. We need to talk about the progenitor virus. There's a lot of backstory to this, but here's a quick, down and dirty answer. In the 1960s, a paleovirologist by the name of James Marcus would discover field notes about an ancient flower from West Africa. This wasn't just any flower. This flower was unique, often causing mutations in creatures that would ingest it. This was an old flower, and even older yet was the virus inside it. An RNA-based virus, the progenitor virus seemed capable of infecting any living organism, and with this being the case, the virus had likely influenced evolution through billions of years' worth of mutations, some positive, some negative, shaping the path the Earth and its life would take. By 1966, James Marcus and a team of scientists would travel to West Africa, where they would find the ancient flower. Soon after, once back in Europe, Marcus would run a test. In a test tube, he would introduce chlorine to E. coli, whereby the E. coli cell would rupture. He would then introduce the virus extracted from the ancient flower and watch. Watch as the chthonic virus repaired the dead E. coli cell, and then watched as that cell underwent division. After some more research drama, the team of scientists would go on to form Umbrella Pharmaceuticals to carry on with their research of this progenitor virus. Umbrella set up numerous facilities around the globe, each place seemingly headed by a mad scientist bent on eugenics and bioweapons. Testing of the flowers would lead to the development of various strains of the progenitor virus, until finally we come upon the T-virus. This is where the Resident Evil story, as we know it, begins. A licker is an evolution of zombies from the Epsilon strain of the T-virus, which itself derived from the progenitor. The second tyrant from the Epsilon strain, T-002, would cause an event at the Umbrella facility located in the Arklay Mountains. During this event, the T2 tyrant, which is encountered in Resident Evil 1, would release an airborne pathogen with the help of a mutated organ in its body. They would go on to infect the Umbrella laboratory. Of course, much of the staff turned into zombies, who would go on to infect more. The water supply of Raccoon City became tainted by the waste and runoff of the Umbrella laboratory beneath the streets. And thus, the cycle was beginning. The infection and tragic events of Raccoon City were beginning to take root. Umbrella, with the Epsilon strain being the first truly successful tyrant maker, would continue to iterate. In order for an Epsilon-infected zombie to become a licker, it has to be host to a slightly altered strain of the Epsilon virus. A licker also needs a lot of flesh available to consume. The Epsilon zombies that engorge themselves are the ones which seem to mutate during the process known as V-Act, a secondary reaction from the virus to keep its host alive. Whether this secondary V-Act process happens from death, damage, or extreme nourishment seems to be a bit of a mystery, but make no mistake. If there's a licker on a wall, then we know it is a result of this process. And the process is quite radical, a transformation in physiology which results in near complete loss of humanity. It is thought that an increased metabolism is the main driving force of their hunger, and to satiate that, they feed as often as they can on flesh, perhaps because they are somehow aware that another round of mutation is incoming. The energy required to turn from a human into a zombie may not be all that much, but the energy required to go from a zombie to a licker could explain the enhanced food drive. The Epsilon virus, as the series showcases, is strong and capable, and much like a derivative of it can mutate humans into tyrants. The Epsilon's results outside of laboratory settings are impressive and terrifying. It's what got us into this whole mess in Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3. It's the reason why we have to even play these games. Now, let's talk about the appearance of the liquor. It has many deviations from its original human form. Most obvious is its lack of a cranial vault. An enhanced brain swells and bulges outside the well-established limits of the human skull. Large, tapered teeth erupt from its jaws. It is bereft of all skin tissue, and instead raw, gleaming muscle reveals itself. In place of hands, it now has claws, and its locomotion is on all four haunches. And of course, evident in the name itself, a tongue which might be numerous feet in length is used like a weapon, like some sort of fetid lash that can snap out and maim, or worse, infect. It no longer looks human. The liquor's transformation is almost total in its scope, and it retains little of its host human in its form. It has taken on the appearance of something feral. In a reversion of mankind's passage through time on Earth, the liquor has become quadrupedal, taking to all fours to stalk its prey. It behaves like a large feline predator, lurking, waiting. Its newly developed legs, built to cover large distances in a single surge of carnal power. Like most early tyrants, the hands have grown into large claws, which allows the liquor to cling to walls and ceilings. In order to do this, their muscles would have to accumulate significant tissue, which could possibly explain why the human flesh has long since disappeared. A liquor is not a small creature, and yet it has the ability to walk along ceilings like a bat. Its hands and grip are no doubt strong. Just above its deadly, sharp maw is a brain much too large for the skull it sits atop. It is erupting over the edges of the skull and is particularly dense on the sides. The part of the brain responsible for hearing in humans is called the auditory cortex, which is located in the temporal region of the brain. Temporal means of the temples, which are at the side of our head. This region has undergone significant growth on the liquor, which would help to explain its preternatural hearing. A no doubt welcomed augmentation to have, seeing as how the liquor has lost its eyes in the transformation process. The liquors we face in the games rely exclusively on their augmented hearing, often waiting and idle until something makes a sound, until we walk too quickly by them. Our fingers shaky on the analog stick or the W key, and then they pounce and swipe and flail their tongues. They can take a fairly significant amount of punishment, often requiring us to use our ammo reserves. But this isn't the only marker that they are special. We know it the moment we see them. We know the normal, shambling zombies the genre was built upon are the least of our concerns now, a mere roadblock for the more dangerous creations the Resident Evil universe has to offer. At its most basic, a liquor resembles a xenomorph with a stunted head. Even the weaponized tongue is reminiscent of the secondary mouth within the xenomorph's jaw. But the horror of the liquor is made all the more real with the knowledge that this thing was once human. There's something simple in its design when compared to other Resident Evil creations. That sounds crazy to say when looking at this thing, but compared to the direction viruses, Kadu, and mold will offer, a liquor almost seems simple. A natural evolution of something that got out of hand. Something once come from nature. I think that is what makes it special and iconic creature design. A common thread for most terrifying creature designs is the relation to something we as humans experience, and the liquor has plenty of those markers. A humanoid brain, the agility and movement of something almost feline, and the uncanny ability to lurk in places we may not always look. Anyways, that's going to do it for this drawing. I hope you liked the drawing and the video. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.